Good morning. Today we are going to cover section 8.4, Parabolas. Be sure to write down your title and your essential question. How do you graph equations involving parabolas? Go and paste your cutouts and we'll start once you are ready. Go and pause it. So the definition of a parabola. A parabola is a set of all points in a plane that are equidistant from a fixed line directrix and a fixed point of focus. That's now on the line. So a parabola has the following characteristics. If you go from the focus to anywhere on the parabola and you form a perpendicular line to the directrix, those two segments are congruent. If you go from your focus anywhere on the parabola and perpendicular to the directrix, those two segments are congruent. So therefore, if you go from your focus down to your vertex and down to the directrix, those two segments are also congruent. And we know that the value of P that we are going to find is the distance from the vertex to the focus. So from the distance from your vertex to the focus is going to be the value of P. So therefore, if P is 3, then it will be 1, 2, 3 to get to the focus. And because those two segments are congruent, in order to be able to get to the directrix, will also be the same distance. Notice that we have two equations that you need to be able to memorize for the test. And they look very similar. If you have 4p y minus k, then your parabola will be facing up or down. That means that your x squared is positive. Excuse me, x squared is, your x is being squared. It can be positive or negative. But usually on a parabola, we usually have x squared will be facing up or down. If your y is being squared, that means that's going to be facing right or left. The way that I memorize is that if we have a number and a y is facing the y-axis, either up or down. If it's a number and an x is facing either right or left. And we'll start on example number 1. But before we get there, let's cover eccentricity. The eccentricity for a parabola will always be 1. Example number 1. Go and copy it down and we'll start once you are ready. Go and pause it. So let's go and make a graph. Let's make a 5 by 5 graph. So before I start, I need to be able to decide whether my parabola is facing up, down, left, or right. X is being squared, so therefore I know that should be up or down. By the way I memorize it, it's facing the -8 on the y-axis, so therefore it has to be facing down. And now I need to be able to find the vertex. So let's go and find the vertex on the left-hand side. My vertex is going to be my h and k. In this case, my h will be 0 and my k will be 0. So 0, 0. Next, I need to be able to find the value of p. Because p is going to let us know whether it's facing, or p is going to be the distance from your vertex to your focus. Now, according to the equation, the value of p is going to be given by 4p equals this number here, whether it's facing up or down or left or right. So therefore, we're going to use 4p equals -8 divided by 4 on both sides, and therefore we have p equals 2. So therefore, you're always going to use 4p equals to whatever number that is. P is the distance from your vertex to your focus. I know my parabola is facing down, so therefore I'm going to make a quick sketch of my parabola facing down. And now that I have the quick sketch, I know that P has to be is -2, and my focus has to be inside my parabola, so therefore I'll go 1, 2, and that is my focus. Now my directrix will be the same distance, but to the opposite side will be 1, 2, and that will be my directrix, so therefore I'll place a dashed line going through that point. This is my directrix, and the value of the equation is y equals +2. The last thing that we need to do, we need to be able to find additional points on the parabola, and we're going to make a table of values. I'm going to plug in values for y, and I'm going to plug into the equation. And that's going to give me values back for x. And you need to decide what values to plug in for y. I'm always going to plug in values inside the parabola. So I cannot plug in a 1, because if I plug in a 1, there's no parabola with the y value of 1. I can plug in a 0, but that's going to give me 0. You always want to go inside a parabola, so it's going to be -1, and that's why it's a good idea to make a quick sketch. And then I'm going to plug in a -2. So let's go and plug in a -1. That'll be x squared equals -8. Instead of that, y will be a -1. X squared equals 8. I want to solve for x. I want to take the square root on both sides, and that will give me x equals square of 8. We need to approximate the value because we need to graph it. So I know square of 9 is 3, so this should be about 2.8, 2.9. And every time we take the square root, we know that we need to have a plus or minus. And that's going to give us two points. Both points, the y value is -1. The x value is 2.8 for the first one, and -2.8 for the second one. One positive, one negative. And now we can plot it. 2.8 and down -1. 2.8 and -1. And now we are going to find two additional points by plugging in a -2. That'll give us x squared equals -8. Instead of the y, I'm going to plug in a -2. X squared equals 16. So therefore, x equals 4. But let me not forget my plus or minus. So therefore, we're going to end up with two additional points. For both of them, my y value is -2. My x value for one of them will be a +4. For the second one will be a -4. So therefore, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and -2, -4, and -2. And now we have a more exact parabola that we can graph. And if we want a more exact parabola, we can continue plugging in -3, -3, -4, -5, and so on. I'll go back and erase my sketch. Let me make sure that I label my vertex. I label my directrix. I wrote down the equation for my directrix. I label my focus. And the last thing will be my domain and my range. My domain will be all real numbers, and my range will be from negative infinity all the way up to 0, including 0, so I will be a bracket. Example number 2. So go and copy it down, and we'll start once you are ready. Go and pause it. So let's go make a quick sketch. Let's go and make a quick graph. Let's make a 5 by 5 graph. 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5, 5 left, and 5 right. So the first thing that I need to do, I need to go to decide if my parabola is facing up, down, left, or right. But in order to do so, I need to be able to rewrite it in the correct form. Notice that your y is being squared, y plus 3 squared, so therefore we're going to rewrite in this form. I'm not going to flip my entire equation, and then I'm going to leave the y plus 3 squared by itself. So therefore we have negative 1 over 6 y plus 3 squared plus 2 equals x. I'm going to leave the y plus 3 squared by itself. So therefore I'm minus 2 on both sides. So we have negative 1 over 6 y plus 3 squared equals x minus 2. I still want to be able to get rid of the negative 1, 6. So therefore I'm going to multiply by negative 6 on both sides. Now we are very tempted to multiply the right hand side. But remember that the form is negative 6 x minus 2. You don't want to multiply that. Next, I need to be able to decide whether my parabola is facing up or down, left or right. Well, I know that my y is being squared, so therefore I know that it's going to be facing left or right. But the way I memorize it is that it's going to be facing the negative 6 on the y-axis, on the x-axis. So therefore, it has to be facing left. First, I'm going to find my vertex, and then I'm going to find the value of p. My vertex is a point, which is 2 and negative 3. Positive 2 and negative 3. And my parabola should be facing to the left. So I'm going to make a quick sketch facing left. And now I'm going to find the value of p, because the p is the value from the vertex to the focus, which should be inside the parabola. I'm going to find p. According to the equation, it will be 4p equals this number, which is negative 6. So therefore, 4p equals to negative 6 over 4. So therefore, p equals to negative 3 over 2. So therefore, your focus will be negative 1.5 to the left. That'll be your focus, which means that your directrix will be 1.5 to the right. That is my directrix. The equation is 123.5. So it'll be x equals 3.5. And now we are going to make a table of values to find the additional points. I'm going to plug in values for x, and that'll give me back values for y. So what value should I plug in for x? Remember that you always want to go inside your parabola. If you plug in a 2, it's going to give you and negative 3. So therefore I'm going to plug in a 1 and then I'm going to plug in a 0. You always want, if you plug in a 1, it's going to give you this point and this point. If you plug in a 0 for the x, it's going to give you this point and that point. So let's plug in a 1 into the equation. So therefore we have y plus 3 squared equals negative 6. Sell the x, I'm going to plug in a 1 minus 2 y plus 3 negative 6 times negative 1 y plus 3 6. I'm going to take the square root on both sides. Y plus 3 equals plus or minus square root of 6. So therefore y equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 6. So therefore we're going to have two additional points. Both of them, the x value is 1. One of them will be negative 3 plus the square root of 6. And the other one will be negative 3 minus the square root of 6. And we can estimate the value of square root of 6, or we can plug into the calculator. In this case, let me go and plug into the calculator. But if you don't have a calculator with you, you can just say, well, square root of 6 between square root of 2 and square root of 9 will be about 2.3, 2.4. We know the square root of 6 is 2.4. So therefore, it will be negative 3 plus 2.4 should be negative 0.6. So therefore, it will be 1 and negative 0.6 should be here. It will be negative 3 minus 2.4, so it will be negative 5.5. 2, 4, 5.5. 5.4. And now I'm going to plug in a 2. Not 2, but I'm going to plug in a 0, right? If I plug in a 2, it's going to give me a negative 3. So now I'm going to plug in a 0. So it gives me y plus 3 squared equals negative 6. 0 minus 2. Take the square root on both sides. Square root of 12. It froze, so let's see. So therefore, that will give me those 2 points. This is 1 comma negative 0.6, and this is 1 comma negative 5.4. Apply 4 points, and now I'm going to plug in 0. The square root of 12 should be about 3.5 plus or minus square root of 12. Only the square root of 12 or 2 square root of 3. Move the 3 to the right becomes a negative 3. So therefore, I'm going to end up with 2 points once again. My x value for both of them is 0. The y value for one of them is negative 3 plus the square root of 12. And negative 3 minus the square root of 12. And I'm going to plot, so 0. This is 3.5. So I'll be 0, negative 3 plus 3.5 will be 0.5. And negative 3 minus 3.5 will be negative 246.5. And now I can use those 5 points to be able to make my graph. Last will be my domain and range. My range will be all real numbers. And my domain will be from negative infinity all the way up to 2. Including the 2, so I'll be a bracket. Example number 3. Go ahead and pause if you need more time, and we'll start once you are ready. So find the standard equation of a parabola with vertex 3, 2, and a focus of 1, 2. So the best thing to do is to be able to make a quick sketch of the information that's given to you, so that way you can decide which equation you will be using. So the vertex is 3, 2. Label it. My focus is 1, 2. So therefore my parabola has to be facing to the left, correct? So the focus has to be inside the parabola. That means that my directrix will be 1, 2 to the opposite side. So do I need to use 4px or 4py? Correct. I need to be able to use y minus k 4px minus h. That's because it's facing to the left. So therefore, I have y. My vertex is my h and my k. So it'll be y minus 2 square. This will be x minus 3. And now the value of p, according to this, is negative 2. And I know it's negative because it's facing to the left. So therefore, the equation is y minus 2 squared equals negative 8 x minus 3. With my vertex being 3 and 2, the value of p is given by 4p equal to negative 8. So therefore, p equals negative 2, and that is correct. And the last example for today. Find the focus of the parabola given by the following equation. Go ahead and pause, write down, pause it, and we'll start once you are ready. In order to be able to find the focus, I need to be able to find the value of p. In order to be able to find the vertex, in order to find the vertex and the value of p, I need to be able to rewrite it in standard form. So by x is being squared, so therefore I have to use this equation. So it has to be in this form. In order to do so, we're going to complete the square. So therefore we have y equals negative 1 over 2x squared minus x plus 3 over 2. In order to complete the square, I need to move my 3 halves to the left. Becomes a negative 3 halves. So therefore I have y minus 3 over 2. I'm going to complete the square, so I'm going to leave some space. And I need to complete the square. Now remember that in order to complete the square, we need to have a leading coefficient of 1. So I need to factor a negative 1/2. I'm going to factor a negative 1/2. And what's left behind? Negative 1/2 times x squared gives you negative 1/2 x squared. Negative 1/2 times what gives you negative 1? Will be positive 2 x. And now I can complete the square. Half of 2 is 1. 1 times 1 is positive 1. And what I do on one side, I need to do to the other side. But remember that the 1 is being multiplied by the negative 1/2, so you actually add in a negative 1/2. So you need to add negative 1/2 to the left. Negative 3 halves plus negative 1/2 will be negative 4 halves, so therefore will be y minus 2. I'm going to factor this out. will be x plus 1, x plus 1, or x plus 1 squared. Move the 2 to the right, we can say positive 2. And now that I have it on standard form, now I know that my vertex is negative 1 and positive 2. I know that my parabola is facing to the, well, this is not, this should be in standard form, correct? This is the form that we have. Or not yet. No, we need to be able to move the 2 to the left. So let me move it back to the left. And that'll be negative 1/2 x plus 1 squared. I'll multiply by 2 on both sides so I can find the value of p by negative 2. So therefore, I have x plus 1 squared equals negative 2y minus 2. And now we can find the value of p. According to the equation, it will be 4p equals to this number, which is negative 2. So therefore, p equal to negative 1/2. So therefore, my parabola is facing down. So that's why it's important for you to be able to rewrite it in standard form, so you can see which way it's facing. We can find the value of p, and then we know that our vertex is negative 1 and positive 2. That's my vertex. My parabola is facing down according to this. And the value of p is negative 1/2, so I'll be halfway, my focus. That means that my directrix is 1/2 up. And my focus is negative 1 and negative 3.5. Or negative 3/2. Negative 3/2. No. Negative 1.5 or negative 3/2. So that will conclude the lesson for today.